The story starts with the ambulance blaring while the police investigate a man who recently lost his life from drowning. Then, we were sent into the darkness. A voice could be heard as if it was our thoughts. As if it was always like that. He was wandering around in an infinite long dream. Someone's thoughts echoed loudly, saying, "What is this? It hurts. I can't breathe. Take me away from here." A child's cry can be heard, introducing us to the protagonist of this story. The child is confused, unable to understand what the others was saying at the moment, but he felt the emotions that they were showing as he holds the finger of her mother with his small hands. Moments later, after they have gotten some rest, the child was confused whether this is real. He looked at the woman who seemed to be his mother that breastfeeds him every day. Then he looked at the man stoking the fire, who seemed to be his father. Still confused and unable to talk, he tried to remember what last happened to him, and he remembered that he was shopping for groceries. He remembered that there are days that he would shut inside his house alone. He remembered that he had no friends and that he would spend his time playing games, but that day he wanted to go outside. He remembered that he lived with his saving after quitting his job, and he had no intentions of getting a new one, even though he needed to earn money. He remembered walking in the town within the crowd of people wearing their suits. It gave him an uncomfortable feeling. It was as if he was doing something unfair. Then he recalled about seeing a child walking on the railings of the bridge, thinking, what is the child doing up there? Then a truck passed by so fast that it caused the child to fall into the river. He remembered contemplating about rescuing the child, hesitating that doing so would also put him in danger. But as the thought had crossed his mind, he remembered that he is alone, and no one would be sad, even if he is gone. He decided to rescue her. He swam across the river, getting the child into the riverbank for safety, all while he felt a horrendous cold, the shivers spreading every inch of his body while losing consciousness. He thought that this is okay, and he accepted his fate, knowing that no one would be sad even if he is gone. He suddenly jolted on the realization that everyone here has their previous life's memory, and the more they spend time in this world causes them to lose that memory, or at least that's what he thought. His father talks to him, but he doesn't understand the language. He looked at them carefully, inspecting the resemblance of people in this world and his previous life, noticing that they have the same semblance except for their ears, which are pointed and had fur. He also noticed that their lifestyle isn't modern, making him curious about what his parents' job. Then suddenly water can be heard dripping. His pee trickles down with his satisfied face. He thought that he might need to graduate from using diapers first. Months go by, he started to notice more about his house. It seems it was in a remote countryside. He hasn't seen any visitors and he can only hear wildlife. He looked at the window, wondering about what the outside world looked like in this new world. A year has passed in his new life. He thought that there's much to learn in this new life that he was given. His parents taught him their language by reading him a story until finally he progressed in understanding the story. He realized that his parents now are different from the parents he had in his previous life. He tried to speak while walking towards his parents. Calling out to them, he said, "Papa and Mama," making them both cry. Tears of joy flowed through their cheeks as they heard their son's first words. He realized that this is what it must have been to feel love, as both of his parents hugged him from joy of witnessing his first words. Years go by. We see him near the riverbank staring at the water, trying to remember about his past life. It has been 3 years since he was born, but his memories of his past life never disappeared, contrary to what he thought. So, he just accepted that he will just continue living in his new body with his new name, which is...
Yuri!
His thoughts was cut off by a loud shout. We see his father named Luke Hao, therefore making his name Yuri Hao. Luke Hao spoke again.
Let's go. I have a place that I want to show you.
Yuri came running towards his father, asking him, "Father, where are we going with Kakadori?" The kakadori is the large bird that looks similar to ostriches and serves as a mount for traveling.
You'll see when we get there. Well, do you want to go or not?
His father asked, and Yuri answered that he wanted to. They rode the kakadori to travel in the meadows until they reached their destination. They stopped at what seemed to be a farm.
We're here. This is the place I wanted to show you. My farm.
His father spoke to him while showing him a huge farm. They rode the kakadori through the farm while his father Luke told Yuri about the farm.
Yuri, do you know why I built a farm in this land?
His father asked. The sudden revelation that his father was the person that built this farm surprised Yuri because he knew that his father was only 20 years old. So this much work amazed Yuri and made him ask. Father built this farm? His father Luke was proud, boasting, saying,
Yep, I built every scratch of it.
Yuri then said, Wow, that's amazing. While being surprised at his father that he built the farm in such a young age, Luke returned to the topic by asking Yuri again.
Never mind about that. Answer my question.
Yuri jolted, remembering the question his father asked earlier. Then, Yuri answered, is it because the livestock's cries don't bother the residents in the vicinity? Luke Howe spoke to what he thinks about Yuri's answer.
I see. That's certainly possible. But most of the time they don't care because they are raising their own livestock.
Then Luke then explained to Yuri why he built the farm in this place.
See that? The land is surrounded by mountains, right? Birds don't grow well on windy lands, so the mountain blocks the wind from blowing in the land.
Yuri asked, Does father manage the farm by himself? Luke answered while further explaining about the Kakadori farm.
Nope, I have employees. Firstly, Kakadoris are mainly fed a mixture of hay, millet, nuts, beans, and etc. While grazing, they hunt rabbits to eat, but once they learn the taste of meat, they become violent, so we don't give it to them beforehand. However, if there is a special order, then it's a little different.
Yuri asked, Special? Luke answered,
There are customers who prefer violent Kakadoris. In that case, we feed them mouse. Specially, soldiers come for violent Kakadoris. Because if you handle it well, Kakadoris can kill many people with their kicks.
Yuri then thought about the Kakadori, thinking that this bird is the ultimate animal weapon. He thought that even if he was to ride such bird, he would avoid a violent one. Then he thought that it might do him well to study the bird, since one day he will inherit this farm. Luke can be heard shouting for Yuri.
Yuri, come here.
Yuri answered while running towards his father, but he was surprised by a larger barn stood before him. The wooden bar was removed and the large barn door was opened by his father. Then Luke encouraged Yuri to go inside. As Yuri steps inside the barn, large wings can be heard flapping around. His eyes stared at the gigantic eagle perched on the wooden beams. Luke spoke.
Were you surprised? This is the bird that I'm mainly taking care of. It is called the king eagle.
Yuri walked towards the king eagle slowly in awe while asking his father, There is a creature like this? His father then said,
It's smart, and once it gets used to you, it'll become friendly, so you should be able to ride it.
Yuri, surprised that this giant eagle can be used as a mount. He shouted, Ride! On that thing! Then his father reminded him about the story he used to read to Yuri.
A heavenly knight appeared in the story, remember? What did you think about it was about?
Yuri turned away his face because he really doesn't understand what that knight role. Luke Howe then blew a whistle which made a king eagle flew down to their level. The king eagle looked closer towards Yuri looming above him, which made Yuri scared, causing him to stumble and fall down. His father reassured him that everything is fine because it is a tradition within their family that upon reaching the age of 3, they would need to ride a king eagle. Then his father said that don't worry because his father is the world's #1 king eagle rider. Moments later, both Yuri and his father mounted the king eagle. His father reminded him that he should never open his mouth while flying the king eagle. As they reached the sky, his father, Luke, stabilized their flight, showing the incredible scenery to Yuri. The beautiful mountains, lush forest, and a long, winding river amazed Yuri even though he's had memories of his past life, saying that it was different than looking throughout the airplane's windows, making him teary-eyed. Luke then grabbed the King Eagle's harness, making it dive down at an incredible speed, which made Yuri hold tight on the King Eagle's saddle. After the dive, as the King Eagle stabilized its flight again, Yuri, feeling amazement and relief, he slouched and leaned his back towards his father. Luke explained why he suddenly surprised Yuri by making the King Eagle dive. Luke spoke.
Some people will never be able to ride an eagle, especially if they're afraid of heights. But now that I've put you to the test, I think you'll be all right.
As they flew above the forest, basking on the sun, gazing on the incredible scenery, Yuri was having trouble getting down the King Eagle. His mind wandered back to the time when he was alone, but suddenly he heard his father's voice.
What's wrong, Yuri? Come on, jump down. Your dad's here to catch you.
Until next time. He was reminded that this wasn't the past anymore, and now that he has his new family, he will never be alone like before. He jumped down to his father's arms, thinking about his new life with Luke and Suzuya as his parents. He asks his parents, Luke and Suzuya, with White Paper Book as a gift for his birthday. White Paper Book is basically a diary, and it is considered to be a rare item in this world.
What are you going to use it for?
Yuri's father, Luke, asks. Yuri then explained to his father why he wanted the White Paper Book as a gift.
It's a diary. I mean, I want to write down the things I thought about. So the thicker it is, the better it would be for me.
Luke asks Suzuya.
How's his reading and writing skills?
Suzuya answers proudly.
It's perfect. I have nothing to teach him.
Yuri deep in his thoughts, thinking that there was little to learn from his mother since they're from a family focused on farming, meaning they didn't have time to attend school. Yuri thought that while he might have a hard time reading difficult books, the reason why he wanted to get the White Paper Book was to write down his previous life's memory before it vanishes away, since those memories and skills might prove useful in the future. Yuri then begged at his father for the book.
Please, Father. I won't ask for a birthday present in the future, so...
Yuri's pleading was cut off by his mother proposing to buy the White Paper Book.
Oh, let's buy him the White Paper Book. Besides, it's the first time Yuri is asking for something. And he helps you with your work, right?
Luke spoke, cutting off Suzuya mid-sentence.
But it costs 4,000 to 5,000 ruga.
Suzuya was shocked at the price of the book. Yuri, deep in his thoughts, he tries to understand the situation. As he saw his mother's expression stiffen upon hearing the price, he surmised that the book is expensive. Understanding that in this world, books are made from animal skins, so it wouldn't be surprising if it's expensive. Thinking that his father came from a royal family, but his father left the royal family and he is trying to earn money from farming to be able to provide for his family. The money they earn may not be much, but still. Yuri couldn't back down, asking for the book as a gift. He stared at his father, filled with resolution, hoping that he would give in and buy him the book. His father sighed, defeated, then he said,
All right, but first you have to prioritize helping your mother, and the farm works too. Can you promise?
Yuri delightedly exclaimed.
Yes, thank you, Father.
Moments later, we see Luke and Yuri riding a king eagle. They soared above the forest as they traveled to the capital city. We enter a flashback scene where Yuri asks,
Shibuyaku?
Luke answered.
Yep, we are going to the center of the Shiaruta Empire, where we currently live, the Shibuyaku capital. Luckily, the King Eagle delivery was on hold. You can choose the white book you want there. Besides, this is a great chance to show you the capital.
Flashback ends and we can see them approaching the capital. Luke pointed at the capital as a sign for Yuri to let him know that they're close. The scenery is different back from their home, the capital having tons of building and noticeable populace leaving and entering the city. They arrived at their destination, which seemed to be a large building. Luke alerted Yuri.
We're landing. Sit tight.
Luke circled around the sky with the King Eagle to signal their landing. Luke landed the King Eagle beautifully, and as he helped Yuri down the King Eagle, a man approached them saying,
As always, that landing is amazing, Luke.
Luke turned around and noticed the man and said,
Oh, Gala.
Apparently, that man's name was Gala. As they continued their conversation, Luke said that.
I came here to deliver. Have you heard about it?
Was it the eagle for the princess or something like that?
Gala answered.
Geez, yes. I got asked for a size that a child could comfortably ride on.
Luke replied.
You got asked for something like that?
Gala replied while laughing at his predicament. Gala then said,
Well, they might have wanted to ride on the king eagle more than the eagles that were raised in the guard's cage, since it has a reputation of being the best in the world.
Then Gala cut himself off from rambling and asked who is the child Luke brought with him.
Anyway, this child,
Before Gala continued, Luke introduced his son.
This is my son Yuri. He is turning 4 this year.
Yuri greeted respectfully.
Hello, I'm honored to meet my father's friend.
Gala patted Yuri on his head.
he is a very mature child. I haven't seen a child this well-mannered since the princess.
Then Gala Sayid criticizing his son.
My son is going to become 4 this year too, yet they are total opposite.
Luke brushing the topic off by saying,
No, don't say that.
A woman approached while both of them were talking, cutting between Luke and Gala's conversation and immediately talking to Gala, while Luke and Yuri listened in their conversation.
Sir Gala,
What's wrong?
Her Highness Carol is here.
The princess. She came to see me first thing in the morning.
Luke, trying not to get dragged in, tried to leave by saying,
Then I'll take my leave.
Gala immediately says,
You didn't get your receipt right? Is it okay to leave like this?
Gala's words stopped Luke in his tracks. Then Gala continued saying,
You have an expression that's saying, it's better not to get involved since it seems annoying if you do. But meet her right now. Who knows, you might become her regular visitor in the future.
The princess entered along with her servants. Gala bowed and Luke kneeled to show respect. Yuri noticed their actions, which made him kneel too. The princess stood in front of them haughtily, then introduced herself.
Good, raise your heads. My name is Carol Full Chartres. Are you Lukao?
Luke replied.
Yes, I'm honored to meet you, Your Highness.
Then the princess replied while praising him.
I heard that you were an exceptional knight who participated in the knight's performance.
Luke humbly replied.
You flatter me. However, I was defeated by Gala.
The princess then looked at the king eagle while saying,
I heard you raise excellent eagles. Is it this one? What's its name?
I have yet to name it. It would be an honor if Your Highness could name it.
Luke replied. Then the princess replied back.
I see.
Then she asked another question, fidgeting excitedly while curiously inspecting the king eagle.
So we can fly with this?
Luke replied.
Oh, we have just traveled a long distance. I think it is best to rest its wings for today.
The princess was downhearted that she couldn't ride the king eagle. Gala then intervened by saying,
Your Highness, maybe we can use this opportunity and tell you about the ways of riding it.
Luke protested on his thoughts, while the princess perked up and excitedly asked.
How should I ride it?
Luke spoke, teaching the steps on how to ride the king eagle.
Yes, first, let's become close with the eagle. Like dealing with a close friend. If done that way, I'm sure the eagle will respond the same.
The princess happily replied.
So, not act gloomy or hostile, okay?
Then she reached her hand for the reins of the king eagle. Luke then looked around for approval. Then the princess servant said,
Don't worry.
Luke then gave the reins of the king eagle to the princess, making her say.
Thanks, I'll cherish it.
Few hours passed. Luke and Yuri walked around the market. Then, while walking, Yuri asked about earlier.
The person you mentioned earlier, Gala.
Luke replied.
He's a classmate of mine when I was in the Knights Institute, a school in the capital city. One day you'll enroll as well.
Yuri replied.
I'll quit midway, though.
Luke cut him off by saying,
But I'm sure you'll be fine, Yuri.
Luke then noticed they already arrived at their destination, a bookstore in the capital. As they entered the store, they saw the place. It was filled with stuff used in drawing and writing. The place was decorated with easels, canvas, and ink. Luke told Yuri to pick one of the books laid out in the table. The book have varying designs, sizes, and thickness. Yuri asked if he could inspect the contents as well, and the shopkeeper said that he could. Yuri examined the books, while his father looked at him smiling and seeing his son's curiosity. The shopkeeper then asked Luke if the book was for his son, and Luke answered yes, while further expanding on the topic by saying that Yuri seems to be interested in anything related to notebooks, memorandums, and such. The shopkeeper was delighted, Then she said that even if we think something is a precious memory for us, there is a chance, a possibility that we might forget those memories. Then the shopkeeper said that, at this age, she hoped to remember the words of his father, the recipe of her mother's soup. The shopkeeper regretted forgetting those memories. Then the shopkeeper said that by buying this book, it will benefit not only his son, but him as well. Because after all, when they die, people will forget about them, which is true, as sad as it might sound to be. Yuri interrupted by shouting that he had decided on what book to get. He chose a simple book with no design, but has more pages than the others. Luke asked if he is sure, then protested that sometimes high-priced stuff comes handy later on. Yuri explained that the other have thicker parchment and has lesser pages than the one he chose. As Luke prepares to pay for the book, the shopkeeper was impressed by Yuri and decided to give them a discount. The shopkeeper was smirking like she was planning something devious, which put both Luke and Yuri into thinking that for some reason the shopkeeper seemed kind of evil. Few hours later, we see Luke and Yuri at the kingdom stable. Yuri asked,
Are we allowed to borrow a bird?
Luke replied,
This is the kingdom's stable. You can't borrow or rent one unless it's a national affair. Usually, people look a carriage or a caravan while also renting a horse for a high price. It's a bit far to travel by foot, so let's change our ride and stay one night in one of the towns nearby. Hold on to your important belongings firmly, okay?
Yuri replied.
Okay.
They spent the night in an inn on a nearby village where they rested and ate food. Luke complimented Yuri.
You did good today. You're tired from the long journey, right? Unlike the eagle back at the kingdom, we have to make a detour on the way back.
Yuri answered.
Yes, when we were flying in the sky, it felt like we were flying near the south of the town of Janaeum.
Luke replied.
Excellent observation.
Yuri replied back.
I saw a cliff near the south of the town. It's pretty inconvenient that you can't fly with 2 adults.
Luke answered while asking for another glass.
It's not like you can't ride with 2 adults. It's dangerous. Even if you do manage to float just a bit, it will most likely crash.
Yuri then asked.
I hear you can fly with 2 women, though.
That only comes from fairy tales. There are some students who mimic it because of their admiration for the stories, but you can't do that, okay?
Luke answered while forbidding Yuri on doing dangerous acts. Then Yuri asked again.
Speaking of girls, the blonde girl that we met today.
Luke interrupted while drinking.
Ah, she's the daughter of Queen Shimone. Her Majesty has a younger sister, but she'll probably the next queen.
I see, she is...
Yuri answered, but he was immediately cut off by his father, who is visibly drunk, teasing Yuri about the princess.
Did you fall in love? The royal family is nothing but trouble, you know.
Yuri then answered while successfully changing the subject.
I'm fine with someone ordinary like Mother. More than that, can you tell me how you got along with Mother?
Luke answered. He rambles on about how he met and courted Suzuya, reminiscing the past, while the night continues on. Later that night, we see Yuri writing on his new book, writing about his past memories and knowledge that he possessed, hoping that by writing it down, these past memories and knowledge will help him in gaining power in the future. 3 years later, we see Yuri riding a kakadori bird in the meadows, celebrating his 7th birthday. He went back to his house, seeing a bird bearing an important insignia. He heard his father shouting,
Please go away. I left a long time ago. This letter. Even if a war breaks out, I have the right to not participate.
The messenger argued.
But the head of the place, Mr. Gauk, he said that you must participate. Please.
A war is about to break out, and we see his father looking at the letter. Yuri asks the caretaker if the kakadori bird is ready. The caretaker said that they were about to leave the stables. Yuri says that today will be a difficult day, and the caretaker asks if he is not happy about that certain thing that happened. Yuri says no, because today will be the day that he will meet with the family head. Moments later, we find Yuri and his mom Suzuya riding a kakadori bird. We can see Yuri and Suzuya having a conversation.
Mom, are you fine?
Yes, Yuri, you have become very skilled at riding. The rest of the birds behind us are behaving calmly.
This is the 2nd time ever that I rode without my father. We must be careful.
We will be arriving at the Karakumo soon. Are you scared?
It is overwhelming for me since this is the first time I am meeting the head of the family. And I was summoned to a meetup that marks the beginning of a war. It won't be an enjoyable conversation. I felt so relieved when my father refused to go to war.
He is more interested in taking care of animals than going to war. But when there are letters from the head, his mood turns sour.
It was what Yuri had realized, that this country was at war. The kingdom of Shalta is located inside a peninsula, and the kingdom of Kirihina is just right across it. Originally, both kingdoms are of the same origin called Shan. To differentiate each other, they call them Kirihina. The threat of war is rapidly approaching and poses a significant danger to the entire country. The war's impact is inevitable as it reaches the kingdom of Kirihina, which is situated at the heart of the peninsula. The Shan people are known for their cold resistance and have historically inhabited the northern part of the continent. Once upon a time, the great empire of Shantila, a vast nation, emerged in the northern part of the continent, ruled by queens for generations. But approximately 900 years ago, it was devastated in a conflict with another race known as the Kurans. The great empire broke into several smaller nations, but they eventually got invaded. Now the only remaining kingdoms are the Kingdom of Shantila and the Kingdom of Kirihina. Every time the Kirihina comes too close to the Kingdom of Shalta, the Shans will send reinforcements to its borders. The leader of the reinforcement is Luke's family, the Hao household. When the war broke out, Yuri's uncle, the head of the household, went to the front lines immediately. Yuri's father denied going to the war, but his position would not allow him to do so. He was forced to participate in the war meeting. Yuri thought that he is lucky that his uncle is a very understanding person, because Yuri doesn't want to experience saying goodbye to a parent who is forced to go into the war. Suzuya suddenly spoke, which cut off Yuri's thoughts.
We have arrived. It's the capital of the Hao family, Karakumo.
We see a lively city full of people, a bustling market with traders and blacksmiths interacting with their customers. Yuri looked around, and he saw that people are looking at them. He thought that the cause might be because of the kakadori bird they are riding, since this specific bird was bred for warfare, and it would be surprising to see a child and its mother riding such bird. They arrived at the gate of Hao family estate, and the guard shouted at them to state their business. Yuri got off the kakadori bird along with his mother and introduced himself.
I am Luke Hao's heir, Yuri. I am here with my mother to attend the ceremony and bid farewell to the soldiers.
The guard tries to remember who Luke was. Then a woman running towards them immediately says,
Mrs. Suzuya, we have been awaiting for your arrival. Please come in.
Yuri left the kakadori with the guards to put in the stables. Then he took a look around the area. He saw weapons and soldiers getting ready for the imminent war that is going to happen. Then they heard a voice calling out to Suzuya.
Mrs. Suzuya,
It was the family head, Lord Gook.
welcome.
Lord Gok, it has been a while since we have met.
Don't be scared. You're my sister-in-law. How's Luke?
Luke will be a little late since he is bringing the eagle offering here.
I cannot accept a gift who leaves their wife with no experience to handle a warbird.
Suzuya suddenly grabbed Yuri and changed the topic towards him.
Actually, my son is the one who handled the bird.
I see. This one's name is Yuri, right?
Yes, sir.
Suzuya's grip tightens, not letting Yuri go.
He is good at handling warbirds?
Yup,
What about the king eagle?
he is pretty good with them as well. I take pride in my son. He's skilled in reading, writing, and even playing the game of Tuki Shogi as well.
Toki shogi as well?
Tuki Shogi is a board game that exists in this world. It is similar to Chinese chess. This is unique because there are only a few ways to cross the river in the middle. Luke liked it so much that he forced Yuri to learn how to play, and within a month, Yuri was already better than him.
There is still time before the ceremony. Let us have a match.
Yuri in his thoughts.
Hey, are you serious?
Then Suzuya interrupted.
But it would be impolite of us, Lord Gauk.
Yuri celebrates in his thoughts.
You tell him, mother.
Lord Gook responded.
Don't worry, Miss Suzuya. Let us have tea in private.
All right, Yuri, let's go with Lord Gook and play a match.
Later they arrived at the place where they will play the game of Tuki Shogi.
Please place your shoes here.
Ah, all right.
Come, feel free to sit down.
The quality of this board and pieces are good.
I'm surprised you can tell. You won't find something like this anywhere else. Let's start now. I do not have much time.
I'm not the type of person who thinks for a while. I will not take much of your time.
We won't need an hourglass then. You can start.
I will try my best.
Moments later, Yuri with a sour face and his head bowed down, which clearly shows that he was defeated.
I have lost. It appears that I am still lacking in experience.
You had a good strategy. Since it has ended so quickly, we can play another match.
Yes, please, thank you.
After a while, Yuri's face still sour, indicating that he lost again.
I give up.
It seems so.
Yuri analyzing the match in his thoughts.
This strategy is unique. Maybe it was one that I didn't read about. This person is super strong.
Lord Gauk suddenly swings a knife towards Yuri. Yuri, with a knife pointed at his face, asks,
What is the meaning of this? Have I done anything impolite?
You have guts. You'll make a fine knight. Do you want to be my son-in-law?
Yuri in his thoughts.
Like the ritual of riding an eagle, are all the people in the Hao family crazy?
Then he replied to Lord Gauk.
I have no intention of marrying someone whom I don't know the face of.
Lord Gook replied back.
You have to reconsider. If you want to have glory with your skills, the ritual will be filled with adults, so it will be quite boring. In the meantime, you will go play with my daughter.
Yuri was guided to the room of Lord Gook's daughter. Yuri knocked on the door, but nobody answered. He tried to peek inside the room and he saw her, Lord Gook's daughter. He went inside and tried to talk to her multiple times, but he was ignored. So he went closer and touched her cheek. Then the girl finally spoke.
You're so rude.
Do you have issues with your hearing?
What? No, I don't.
Then why didn't you reply? Are you angry because I interrupted your brainstorming?
No, I'm too distracted to do anything.
What are you thinking about?
Even if I tell you, you won't understand the topic.
Perhaps I won't understand if you don't tell me.
That's right, but telling you is a waste of time.
If you're having trouble with the answer, then why not try and see if I can help you? Do you think I'm joking?
Will you leave after I explain it to you?
Yuri's patience is wearing thin, then the girl said.
Prime, I was wondering if there is an infinite amount of it.
This made Yuri think.
Prime. What is this? A word in Shan language where essence and number are combined. That's prime numbers.
Then Yuri replied to the girl.
You're talking about 2, 3, 5, right? What do you think about them?
The girl suddenly slammed the desk and shouted.
As I thought you don't understand. Get out. Get out now.
Yuri replied.
I understand it.
This surprised the girl.
N is a number that is greater than or equal to 2. N and N plus 1 do not have common divisors other than 1. It would be strange if there are more than 2 divisors. Thus, when we multiply n by n plus 1 and designate the result as m will have 2 or more prime numbers as factors. Moreover, prime numbers are inherently distinct from one another. And in the same way, when the number is multiplied by m and m plus 1, it has 3 or more prime numbers that are involved as factors. That's because it can continue infinitely. Prime numbers are infinite. Hence, prime numbers exist infinitely.
Whoa, you're amazing. Did you find this information in a book? You can remember everything so well.
It's simple and very easy to understand the theory. You might develop a new perspective.
I am envious. My family doesn't really understand me, so they don't buy me books.
That's a pity. It's such a waste that you're smart.
Do you really think so?
But if everyone is as smart as you, then I'll quickly become an underachiever.
Not at all. You are great.
Thanks.
The girl reached out her hands and introduced herself.
My name is Sham. Can I become your apprentice?
My name is Yuri Hao. I think we're cousins. Speaking of which, I can only teach subjects like mathematics. Sham, what are you interested in?
Everything and anything.
Yuri can be seen alone standing in a classroom. He thought to himself that for some reason this feels nostalgic. He saw his classmate from his past life, Yahata. Then his classmate started talking to him. Yahata told Yuri that his father was fired and asked him if he heard anything. Then Yuri's phone rang and he answered it. It was his father. Then his father asked Yuri if Yahata is with him and if he is crying. Yuri remembered that Yahata's father worked in his dad's company. Then Yuri asked his father about what happened. His father then told Yuri that Yahata's father was accused of stealing company goods and that his father got in trouble with the police recently. Yuri asked what Yahata's father stole, then his father answered iron hinges and nails. Then his father elaborated that Yahata's father only took a small amount, but it was enough to dismiss him. Yuri argued about the decision his father made, but he was pushed down the iron hinges and nails. He realized that his father wasn't a decent person as a parent and as a manager. As Yuri fell down, his father said that Yuri don't need to interfere with his judgment while making fun with Yahata's father, calling him an outmoded craftsman. Yuri fall deeper down while shouting help to Yahata. Yahata replied by promising Yuri that if he becomes a doctor, he will save him. Moment later, we see Yuri awake sitting on the bed. It seems it was a dream. He wrote down all the memories he remembered from his past life, but for some reason, it was pretty real even for a dream. He realized that Yahata never became a doctor. Then he heard a knock on the door. Yuri walks down to answer the door. He shouted,
Who is it?
I'm Shun, a retainer from the Hao family.
Please wait a moment. I cannot open the door myself. I'll wake my father up right away.
After waking his father up, they gathered around the fireplace.
Shun, first show me your hands and legs.
I am totally fine.
I will be deciding that. Frostbite is something that you cannot judge by yourself.
I understand.
Luke inspects Shun's arms and legs for any sign of frostbite.
Okay, no problem.
Please have this for now.
Thank you very much.
Shun ate the bread and drank the hot coffee because he hasn't had breakfast yet.
Not had breakfast?
Yes. I was so busy that I couldn't eat anything the whole day.
Running throughout the place in this cold weather is too dangerous for your health. So, what happened?
Lord Gook was killed in action. He was riding on the King Eagle Sir Luke gave him, but was caught up in the King Eagle's attack. He fought bravely to the very end.
Yuri, in his thought that the uncle he talked and played Tukishugi a few days ago, died from the battle. Luke grabbed Shun's shoulder.
Shun, you're joking, right?
No. It's all through word of mouth, but it's true that he has passed. No corpses were found.
A pan of hot water fell, shocking both Luke and Shun. It was Suzuya. She overheard Luke and Shun's conversation. She said that she will prepare another one, then she walked back into the other room. Yuri went to his mother, Suzuya, and saw her crying. He comforted her mother while Luke and Shun finished the conversation.
About this matter, Sir Luke, I would like you to attend the family meeting in the morning.
Ah, of course, I'll attend the meeting. I'll lend you a room. So drink and go to bed. I don't want you dying as well while going back home. Make sure to drink. This is a funeral drink for my brother.
In the morning, they went to the family house. Luke and Yuri can be seen waiting in the dining table. Shun came with a letter in hand.
Sir Luke, this is the list of the people attending the meeting.
Ah, thanks. I don't see Sir Lacoon's name on the list.
Since Sir Lacoon refused to participate in the King Eagle's attack, he and his wife was removed from the list of participants. They said, "A coward who left his master and ran away cannot be called a knight."
Yuri deep in his thought.
Lacoon Ek. He's a head of a powerful branch of the Ek family, if I'm right. It's a splendid family, entrusted with a large frontier city and one of the most powerful vassals in the country. It's strange such an influential person is not invited in the family. What's more, taking a son-in-law instead? I have a bad feeling about this situation.
Luke continued his conversation with Shun.
All right, I understood. You did a good job.
Well then, please excuse me.
Well, anyway, I don't have anything to do or say there. I'm just going to sit there.
Is it because he's your uncle's brother? So he is first in line for head?
No, it's a rule that you can't become the head of the Hao family unless you have the title of a knight. The world also doesn't recognize you as a leader of the army. I didn't get it because I dropped out of the Knights Academy.
I see. In the first place, what do you mean by King Eagle's attack?
It's time even you know what it means. That is,
Luke further explained to Yuri, King Eagle's attack is a strategy to attack the enemy general from the air and attack the enemy's base on the ground at the same time. At dawn, a large number of troops surprise the enemy general in his tent, but there is no guarantee that the enemy general would even be there. Even so, they risk their lives to come and rush in with a force that crushes the enemy's forces. If the enemy general dies, then they get away. But if it fails, then they open a bloody path towards the general and cut off his head. It's a desperate tactic used when you want to recover from a situation where you're outnumbered. Yuri thought that it is just a plain kamikaze attack. Luke then spoke.
it sounds good, but it's not like everything will be fine. But my brother used it, so it's amazing that he had the courage.
Do I have to participate in all these things when I become a heavenly knight?
No, attacking with the King Eagle's attack is something heavenly knights willingly do. No one has the right to force them to do it. But it is considered an honor to perform the King Eagle's attack for a heavenly knight.
They were cut off by a knock. Then a woman told them that all the participants have gathered in the hall. Yuri told his father good luck, but his father replied that Yuri's name was also in the list of participants, so he would have to participate as well. They were guided to the meeting hall, with all the participants gathered and already seated in their respective seats. Yuri thought that even though the Hao family has a tradition of not having the eldest person in the household as head, there are only old geezers in the meeting. Is the Hao family course so damaged and empty that no person is left alive? Yuri's thoughts was interrupted, and he was surprised that he was offered the seat of honor. Luke spoke with his sister-in-law.
It's been a long time, sister-in-law. This time I truly...
Sister-in-law is a little... Please call me Satsuki like you used to.
All right, Satsuki. Come on, introduce yourself to her.
Hello, Aunt. I'm Yuri. Nice to meet you.
Sham was praising you a lot, you know.
Not at all. It's just that she is very smart.
Thank you for talking to her and telling her that story. How about we sit and speak?
After all the participants have seated, Satsuki started the meeting.
Well then, to all the people gathered here. As you all may know, my husband Guk Ho, who was the captain of the expedition to the Kirihina Kingdom, fought bravely and was killed in action. The remaining members of the household must quickly think of measure for the future. Luckily, my husband, who was worried about the Hao family, left a will before he headed to the battlefield. Now I will be opening and reading the will.
All the participants nervously waited for Satsuki to read the will left behind by her husband Guk. As Satsuki read the letter left by her husband Guk.
I, Gauk Hao, the 27th head of the Hao family, appoint my younger brother Luke Hao as the next family head. That's it.
All the participants were surprised. Luke suddenly stood up while protesting.
Satsuki, I can't do.
I know, Luke. I don't mind if you continue to live your life normally. Because after your son here graduates from the Knights Academy, it would be good if he inherits the territory.
This sudden revelation surprised Yuri, leaving him confused and making his face fall into a puzzled expression. Yuri was shocked that his father was designated to be the next family head until he graduates and takes over as the next family head. Luke protested and said that there should be someone else better suited as the head of the family, but Satsuki was set out to carry Gook's last will. One of the elders protested that Luke lacks knighthood, since he dropped out from Knights Academy. Satsuki replied that she already spoke to the queen and gave them a special permission to elect the head without having knighthood. Satsuki said that Luke's records of his credits and awards still exist, and if need be, they can request and claim knighthood at once. She further explained that the Hao family's territory is the farthest from the kingdom of Kirihina, which is the battlefield right now. It has very warm climate, and the land is very fertile and productive. But in return, the Hao family served as reinforcements for generations against Kuran's invasion. However, due to the repeated battles, it's become difficult to maintain their army's strength. Yuri was slowly understanding the situation. He finally understood why there were so many old men in the meeting. It was because there's no tradition in the Hao family that the eldest would be the head of the family. The young people died in the war and the old people have returned back, so there weren't many young people to inherit the title of the head. Yuri thought that Chaldeans have a unique political system where the government and politics were run by women and military were run by men. Yuri realized that from the queen's point of view, it would be beneficial for her to send the Hao family to fight the war as reinforcements to preserve the military strength of the other families to protect the capital. He didn't think that Satsuki would have involved the queen. Yuri quickly realized that's where Xiam inherited her intelligence. Luke shouted that he didn't want to involve Yuri in these matters, especially if he doesn't want to be a knight or the family head. Satsuki said that isn't being a knight what all young kids admire. But Luke still protested that Yuri was still young and he shouldn't have that much of a burden at such a young age. Satsuki intervened by saying that after graduating, if Yuri isn't capable of becoming the head of the family, then Xiam would have to marry someone suitable outside the Hao family. That would mean that someone outside the Hao family would be the next head of the family. Luke and Yuri quickly realized that Satsuki was just protecting the entire family from falling into the hands of someone outside the family. This troubled Luke and Yuri, since Luke was just a stand-in head of the family until Yuri graduates the Knights Academy. Yuri understood what her aunt, Satsuki, was planning. They planned to let Yuri stay in the family house, and if Yuri developed feeling for Xiam, then she won't be forced into an unhappy marriage. Yuri thought deeply for a few minutes. He thought that it looks like he might be the future family head. He didn't know whether it was a good thing or not. Then he thought that would this be decided by his father giving consent, or would they have a voting whether he inherits the title of the family head? He thought that if it ever ended up as a voting, then he might even throw a tantrum to prevent him being the family head. As Yuri was about to talk to his father, they heard someone shouting from the hallway and forced himself inside the meeting room. Satsuki's eyes turned grim as he looked at the man, while the man pointed his finger towards her. He is mad that he wasn't invited in the meeting, demanding on whose permission did they get to hold the meeting. Satsuki replied to him by saying how dare he show his face in the meeting. It was Lakan Ek. He is the man who refused to participate in the King Eagle's attack, leaving Gook to his death. That's why he lost his position in the meeting. He was supposed to be a strong candidate for the next head of the family. Lakunek then shouted that how dare Satsuki go against the will of her husband Gook. Satsuki angrily replied, what the hell Lakunek was talking about, and that he was the one who ran away from the battlefield. He protested even further that he doesn't know what lies have Satsuki been spouting. Yuri thought that this man doesn't even know what was written in the will, so why was he acting that way? Lakunek then asked one of the elders about the paper he was holding, then grabbed it from him as soon as he heard that it was Gook's will. Lakunek walked towards Satsuki, then slammed the will on the table, saying that it was a fake. Then he loomed over Satsuki, saying that it was a shame that a woman was caught scheming things. As Lakunek reached at his chest pockets, he revealed that he has the real last will. And this shocked everyone in the meeting. The letter said that he appoints Lakun Ek as the next family head, and he is expected to perform diligently and live up to his name. Lakun Ek then mocked Satsuki about the will. Satsuki angrily replied that she can't believe that this lowlife is a retainer of the Hao family. She shouted that even fooling around has its limits, and that the Ek family should be ashamed to even bring out a fake will. After Gook initiated the King Eagle's attack, Lacune Ek abandoned him, and the reports of him flying away already reached the main family. Lacune Ek replied shouting that it was Lord Gook that asked him to deliver the last will, while Satsuki replied shouting back that it was the Rosk family that delivered the last will, and that she trusts them as much as the Hao family, and adding that even Lacune Ek owes a lot from the predecessors of the Rosk family. Lacune Ek then accused Satsuki that she somehow convinced the Rosk family to support her story by flattery or false promises. The whole room went silent. Yuri thought it was obvious that Lacune Ek brought a fake will, and he felt like Lacune was worse than Satsuki in terms of personality. As Yuri analyzed the situation, he thought that Satsuki could have put an argument if she didn't lose to her anger. On the other hand, Lacune Ek was able to hold his ground in front of many spectators and is quick with his replies. There was no method to prove that the will Lacune Ek brought was fake, because the technology still does not exist in this world. Lacune Ek had the upper hand in this situation. Even the elder doesn't want to speak up and stir up the situation even more, because they think it is a demerit to oppose Lacune Ek, since the other options were Luke, who isn't a knight, and Satsuki, who was just Gook's wife. So Yuri thought of a way to break the intense situation. He asked Luke that he wants to go to a toilet. Luke approached Satsuki and called out to her. He asked Satsuki if they could take a small break, because Yuri needed to go in the toilet. This brought Satsuki back and calmed her down. Flustered, she said that they would take a short break and would resume the meeting in half an hour. After getting outside the meeting room, Yuri asked his father if they could go to a room where no one could hear them. His father puzzled, asking what about him asking earlier if he could go to the toilet. Yuri explained that it was just a lie that he made because he wanted to speak with him privately. After they found a room, his father asked jokingly to Yuri what the agenda for today was. Yuri replied back with a question, asking him if his father had any plans to be the head of the family. Luke answered saying that it depends on the elections. He said that he doesn't really want to be the head of the family, but if it was really his brother's will, then he has no choice. Yuri told him that there was a difference in the handwriting between the wills, and he encouraged to his father to point it out to find the fake in the elections. Yuri is worried that his father Luke will be provoked by Satsuki to becoming hostile against Lacune Ek and his supporters. The political situation was a bit worrying for him, since it is a situation where the loser could kill the winner's family in retaliation. Luke disagreed with Yuri, but he was cut off by him saying that there are a lot of history books that always ended up that way. Luke stood up and reassured Yuri, saying that if it comes to that point, he will handle the situation somehow. Yuri reminded him to avoid confronting others as much as possible. His father replied that he got it already while opening the door. Little did they know Satsuki was waiting behind the door, which both surprised Luke and Yuri. Satsuki reprimanded the two of them, saying that they need to confront the others with more resolute attitude. Yuri interrupted, asking to speak with Satsuki for a few minutes. A few moments later, Yuri approached the two guards, saying he is Luke's son. He is asking to meet Lacune Ek, but the guards said that he is currently out. Yuri insisted by saying that it is important and asked if he could wait inside his room. The guards looked at each other, then they agreed. As they waited for Lacune Ek to return, the guard was telling Yuri about the Knights Academy. The guard said that in the countryside there's not much to do, unlike the capital. Yuri was reminded on how dull his previous life was before being reincarnated. A loud thud of the door opening. It was Lacune Ek, visibly mad that one of his guards wasn't guarding at his post. The guard said that he was supervising a child, but Lacune was already angry. Lacune told him to shut up and that he will get punished later. Lacune turned around to Yuri, asking why was he there. Yuri said that he came there to deliver a message from his father. He said that it was the secret of the will Ms. Satsuki was holding. And this marks the end of Chapter 5. Like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you can be notified for future updates. For other videos like this, click here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.